Picture this, it's 2003, you've just fired up your clunky Xbox or trusty PC, and suddenly, you're thrust into the middle of the Star Wars universe. Not as an extra running from stormtroopers, but as the hero or villain.
Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, or KOTOR for those in the know, didn't just take us to a galaxy far, far away, it gave us the keys to it, and let me tell you, it was one heck of a ride.
This wasn't just another Star Wars game, it was the Star Wars game that finally made us believe we could use the Force
without having to deal with the absolute brain fuck that is midichlorians, and also the prequels as a whole for that matter.
So join me, JustMasked,
And your co-host Ams,
as we dive into the world of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Story. The twist that made M. Night Shyamalan jealous. Let's start with the story, which is so epic it makes Luke's daddy issues look like an episode of the Jerry Springer Show. KOTOR sets you up as a mysterious, amnesiac protagonist because in RPGs, nothing says interesting character like memory loss. But the real magic is in the way the plot unfolds. Sure, it seems like your typical save the galaxy from the bad guys scenario, but then boom, there's a plot twist so monumental, it probably made the developers high-five each other for weeks. It's the kind of twist that makes you rethink every decision you made in the game up to that point, plus it's set 4,000 years before Luke, Leia and the rest of the Skywalker soap opera, so it's a fresh take without any of that prequel CGI.
The story of Knights of the Old Republic revolves around, as we've mentioned, an amnesiac protagonist, but the thing that you don't know is that this protagonist has probably one of the most insane backstories ever. You see, this is a D&D style RPG, meaning you get to live the fantasy of Star Wars as your own character. But the actual character, the lore accurate character, is Darth Revan. And let me just tell you right now, this guy is crazy. From wiping out the Mandalorians single-handedly to revive himself through sheer hatred after death, this character is someone you really need to look out for. And also his counterpart Darth Malak. Both of them have an almost brotherly connection with one another. From once being Jedi together, to then becoming Sith together, to then the actual plot of this game. Now, if you want to get really invested into the story, I'd really recommend you reading up on the Old Republic history just to get some idea of what this game could be.
Now, let's talk about the characters, because a Jedi is only as good as the company they keep. Your crew is a ragtag bunch of misfits, ranging from a Wookiee with a heart of gold and the temper of molten lava to HK-47, the homicidal droid who refers to humans as meatbags with all the affection of someone describing their ex.
Commentary. It is not possible to destroy the Master. It is suggested you run while my blasters warm up, meatbags.
And then there's Bastia, who's basically that one friend who insists on doing everything by the book until you finally drag her to the dark side. Every conversation is a potential episode, especially when you're trying to keep everyone from killing each other in the middle of hyperspace. KOTOR boasts one of the most memorable cast of characters since the Mos Eisley Cantina Band. You better know who that is, and if you do, I'm very surprised. The Wookiee Zalbar has more depth than Chewbacca ever got in any of the movies, in my opinion. I'm not sure if Mast will agree, but in my opinion, this is a crew that you generally want to hang out with. And speaking from a point of view, like as Mast said, D&D RPG, and it's a turn-based game, you're really invested, and when you are invested, you're exploring, you're doing your own thing, you really get not only invested, like, okay, this is fun, whatever, you get emotionally invested as well. It's like you're almost in the world with them. And coming back to the fact that I said that, yeah, you might want to hang out with them, that's only assuming you don't mind the occasional betrayal or mind tricked. Oh, and the romance options, let's just say it's as complicated as a Shakespearean love triangle, except with more lightsabers. Gameplay. Use the Force or just hit things. In KOTOR, you're not just along for the ride, you're driving the Millennium Falcon. The gameplay masterfully blends traditional RPG mechanics with Star Wars action. Want to be a Jedi? Go for it. Prefer to play the game as a sarcastic Han Solo type? Sure thing. Or maybe you're just there to hit things with a lightsaber. No judgment, because that's fun too. The combat system was turn-based, but with enough action to keep your adrenaline pumping. And don't even get me started on the dialogue options. You could be a paragon of virtue, a dark side sadist, or a delight mix of both, because who says you can't force choke someone and then apologize?
On top of that, the D&D style of the game adds so much more variety. Of course, in the traditional vein, you have attribute points that you can assign to your character. This coincides with the type of character you want to play as well. Depending on the choices you make throughout the game affects your tendency for the light side or the dark side, which comes in very handy towards the end. You also can learn certain techniques and skills from either the light side or the dark side, but that's entirely up to you. And to reiterate the point about making decisions throughout the game, you can make certain decisions in the game that play out very differently. It's one of those games where there's just so much attention to detail that you'll have plenty of time to explore your options.
Yep, plenty of time to explore your options indeed. I mean, the dialogue system does stand out quite a bit in this game, don't you agree, Mast?
Yes, from the sprawling underworld cities to the overworld cities to different planets that you may come across, there's plenty of different routes you can take in this game.
The choices you make actually matter. I mean, that's the best part about it. It lets you decide whether you're gonna be the galaxy's savior, its destroyer, or its resident smartass. You can flirt your way to victory, intimidate your way to power, or just be that one Jedi who always has a snarky comment ready. Personally, I like to think of my character as the galaxy's first stand-up comic, using humor to diffuse tension and occasionally Sith Lords, only if that was possible.
There's also plenty of minigames. Man the turrets, encountering trouble off-world where you have to go through a blockade, swoop racing, kind of like pod racing but without cringy Anakin, Pazak, Gwent, but infuriating. There's a whole list of minigames you can go through. With that being said, you won't have trouble finding fun. In the end, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is the game that lets us all live out our Jedi dreams without having to leave our couches.
It's an RPG masterpiece that balances storytelling, gameplay, and sheer Star Wars fun in a way that few games have since. Whether you're a die-hard Star Wars fan or just someone who just enjoys a good RPG, Knights of the Old Republic is a must-play.
Plus, it's the only game where you can go from 0 to Sith Lord in the time it takes to decide whether or not you should steal a Wookiee's lunch. So, if you haven't played it yet, what are you waiting for? Trust me, the Force compels you. It's been JustMasked,
It's been Ams.
and we'll see you in the world of gaming.